going on, Jerome's? Beautiful Wednesday. Wait, is it Wednesday today? Doesn't matter. Happy hump day to those who celebrate. It's time for another Vikings news. Actually, is it Wednesday? It is Wednesday. Run on through. So, yes, Dak Prescott. I feel like Dak Prescott has always been what the media wants you to think Kirk Cousins is. Now, to a degree, Kirk Cousins is a money-grubbing, stat-stuffing quarterback who will never win the big game. To a degree. But Dak is that. And I think that he's amplified by the fact that he is a quarterback of the Cowboys. If he was a quarterback of the Panthers, he'd be like, oh, Dakota Prescott, an average quarterback who just gets paid too much. But rumors via Jordan Schultz, who's been doing phenomenal work and really rising up the ranks of the insiders, Dak to reset quarterback market with $60 million per year, which would just be absolutely bat bleep insane. I got quarterback salaries up here somewhere. Enhance. All right, so quarterback salaries right now. Jumping Joe Burrow leading the way at an average of 55 per year. And yes, Mahomes at 45. Oh, the Kirk one's 45, but Mahomes is in a completely different stratosphere. I mean, Mahomes signed that 10-year, $450 million deal. It's already been lapped, but he's taken care of, and he wants to leave some cash on the table for some of his teammates too. One novel concept. But basically, it's been a game of leapfrog. Burrow, Herbert, Jackson been paid recently. Jalen Hurts is averaging $51 million per year. That's crazy. I mean, Jalen Hurts is basically a Tim Tebow. If Tebow played today, the tush push? Come on, Marrone. I mean, Tim Tebow would be all pro. Get the hell out of here. Rusto bringing in $49 million a year. And the Broncos still have to give him like $76 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. It's great. It's beautiful, man. So basically, I mean, Kirk Cousins at 35 is a steal. And Dak on his current deal, basically he got the Daniel Jones contract, 4 years, $160 million. He's headed into the final year of his deal, and he does have leverage, as outlined by our guy, Ari Maria of My Sports Update. A reminder of the leverage Dak Prescott will have on the Cowboys this offseason and extension talks. His cap number for 2024 is a whopping $59.45 million. Which, if the cap goes up to 250, beep, bop, 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 boop, nearly $60 million of the $250 million cap, it's kind of a lot. It's almost a quarter. He cannot be tagged next year, meaning he can become an unrestricted free agent no matter what. He has a no trade clause. If Dak were to leave in free agency next year, Dallas would take on a $36.4 million in dead money for 2025 because they got some void years on his deal. Prescott has 1 year left on his deal and has all the leverage in the world to ask Cowboys to make him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Imagine that. Imagine where, I mean, yeah, Dak Prescott can be fine at times, but $60 million a year, nah. And does this affect Kirk Cousins' negotiations? Not really. I mean, Dak being 30, versus Kirk being 35, going to be 36, not really. But I mean, if Kirk gets 60, and we're complaining about Kirk potentially getting like 45 and change. It's kind of a weird conversation. Also, that Josh Allen contract is looking like a bargain right now, man. It's crazy. Speaking of contracts and being crazy, so I know that we Vikings fans have sort of accepted that Danielle Hunter may leave. He has a no-tag clause, as well as he is coming off a career year. He's going to be 30 in October and has a chance to really get paid, really cash in. And, yeah, he already had a 5-year deal with the Vikings, which had to be amended several times because it was below market when he signed it. And, yes, that is on him. But also, I want Danielle to get his market rate, and that's probably 23, 24, 25 million per season. And also, so we put out there, so search on this hell site of x.com and see how excited all the fan bases are about potentially signing Danielle Hunter. Tells you everything you need to know. Hashtag pay Danielle. Hashtag keep Danielle, you idiots. So ESPN's Matt Bowen said that Danielle would be the best fit with the Los Angeles Rams, and Rams fans, Rams house, they were super fired up, man. Like having a talisman on the edge to go with Byron Young, as well as Aaron Donald and Kobe Turner in the middle. I mean, that's a damn good defensive line. They can really get after things and really shake things up in the NFC West. And other teams, you look at Jacksonville, you look at the Tennessee Titans, you look at Texans, you look at the Cowboys, all potentially could land Danielle. They're super fired up. They're super excited. So I feel like Danielle has been so good for so long that Vikings fans are a little bit jaded, and there's still a handful of Vikings fans that hold his 2020 season against him. Sorry that he herniated the disc in his neck when the Vikings were maybe going a little bit too hard in the paint in practice. We're talking about practice, man. So, yeah, sorry he broke his neck effectively trying to practice for your favorite team. Sorry about that. But Daniil has proven he's healthy. He's proven that he can be a hand-in-the-dirt D-end. He can be on the closed or open side of the field. He can be a stand-up outside linebacker. He can drop in coverage, which Donut Shell, come on, man. Come on. But pay Daniil. Hopefully cooler heads prevail, and we go from there. So some good news. So the Vikings had been giving up a 7th-round pick as one of the conditional picks of the Josh Dobbs trade with the Arizona Cardinals, but apparently beep, bop, 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 boop, ain't going to happen. So Vikes fan page, the Vikings will keep the 2023 7th-round pick, 2024, used to acquire quarterback Josh Dobbs in this year's draft. Dobbs needed to play 55% of the team snaps in order for the Cardinals to receive the pick, which did not happen. So basically, if Dobbs had started the rest of the season, it would have been effectively 55, but he was benched. He played about a quarter of the snaps. It doesn't really matter, but the Vikings, we keep the 7th rounder. It's beautiful, man. So there we go. So now the Vikings have 9 draft picks because they're probably not getting any compensatory picks. But we'll talk about it too. I feel like, so yeah, I was watching the Dobbs-Falcons game, which should have been the Jaron Hall breakout game, but I digress. Hear me out. Also, so Ricky Spielman was a good general manager here with the Vikings for a number of seasons. Now, yeah, you can nitpick every single GM. They have their hits, they have their misses, but I do feel like Spielman was above average. He could just never get the quarterback position right. Whether it was T-Jack, T-Jack wasn't really his pick. That was more Childress. But whether it was Ponder, Teddy's leg fell off, and then Kirk Cousins. Kirk was fine, but, but Spielman. So I love that Spielman is doing media stuff now, and he's getting Aaron Rodgers to pee in his pants a little because he took some shots at general manager Aaron Rodgers. So Spielman, obviously very familiar with Rodgers because of Rodgers' time with the greasy grimy Green Bay Packers. But on the 33rd team, Spielman put out a video basically just lambasting general manager Aaron Rodgers. If you look at Aaron Rodgers, the GM, he was very poor, and it outlined all of the moves that the Jets made this offseason at the behest of their octogenarian quarterback. So not only did they trade for Aaron Rodgers, but they also named Nathaniel Hackett, failed Broncos head coach, as the OC, basically the rubber stamp for Rodgers. And then, so Adrian Amos came over, whatever. Tim Boyle, who should not be in the National Football League. Tim Boyle is not an NFL caliber quarterback, as evidenced by his time with the Jets when he started for a hot second over Zach Wilson and then was literally cut. What about his UConn tape, or what about his UConn numbers really stood out to the draft people? I don't understand it. Kajus was fine, but Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb should have been out of the league 5 years ago, man. What about Jordy Nelson? Can you get a little something? Mecole Hardman come over from the Chiefs, who ended up back on the Chiefs after the Jets cut him, and then he won a Super Bowl. And then Alan Lazard. Mecole catching the game winner. Come on. And then Alan Lazard, which, the 4-year, $44 million deal, absolute ridiculous, absolute train wreck. And this was all because of Aaron Rodgers. And now, who else is he going to get? Also, you could probably put the Dalvin signing on Aaron Rodgers because he's like, let's give Dalvin $7 million and then only give him the ball 14 times. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. But, Spielman, that's got to feel good. And Spielman's really good in the media. Now, he was a part of the Washington Commanders search for their new general manager, but does he want to get back into the game? If not, I think that he could just do media and TV for forever. Because remember, when he was GM of the Dolphins and he was let go because Saban came in, he did TV. He was on ESPN for a year before he became part of the Vikings. So I think that he could fall back into that role again. Also falling back in, speaking of the 33rd team, is they did up their 2-round NFL mock draft, and a couple of different names landing with the Vikings. So they don't go quarterback, but Quinion Mitchell, the pride of Toledo, ends up with the Vikings at 11. Now, Quinion Mitchell, his tape is really solid. I think that he comes in day one is a rock-solid starter, and I don't think that he leaves the field for 10, 12 years. And also had himself a great Senior Bowl, too. But he's 6 foot, a buck 96. This is what they wrote. Fit. The Minnesota Vikings desperately need another outside cornerback, and Quinion Mitchell would be a perfect fit in Brian Flores' defense. He is highly aggressive and has elite ball skills. He and Arnold are battling to Terry and Arnold, cornerback of the Alabama Crimson Tide, are battling to be the first cornerback off the board. And I think it will be Quinion or it will be Terrium. I know that Kool-Aid has a big-time name. But I think that Kool-Aid is more of a fringe first-round pick. Cooper DeJong could also work his way into the mix as well, especially given his punt return prowess, as long as he stops doing this. He didn't call fair catch. That's right. He called an illegal fair catch. But again, this is a different way to slice things. Vikings have generally gone either quarterback or some form of defensive line. So this is interesting. I think this is the first major publication that gave the Vikings a cornerback in this spot. And it's depending on what happens with Kirk, it is a spot where the Vikings, depending on what happens in the top 10, they could have their choice of edge rushers or cornerbacks. I think it's a pretty good spot to be in. And then second round, 42 overall, Zach Frazier coming out of West Virginia. Now, I understand. Another 310-pound center, but Frazier plays with a lot better leverage than Bradbury did. And no, this is not going to be another Grim Reacher situation. I think that Frazier could come in and be rock solid. People forget, Vikings had undersized center before Bradbury named John Sullivan, who was, I believe, a 5th or 6th round pick out of Notre Dame. I think it was 6. But yeah, Sully was undersized, but he played with great leverage. And I think that's something that Frazier has as well. Former wrestler, love when interior offensive linemen or interior defensive linemen have a wrestling background because they understand angles and leverage and everything with that. Plus, they know suffering. They know making weight. Which I think is important along the defensive line. But Frazier coming in, if the Vikings go this route, cornerback and center, it's not really the traditional layout of some of these mock drafts, which is fine. I love different perspectives. Most of the time it's Vikings quarterback D-line, quarterback D-line, quarterback D-line. But depending what happens, say the Vikings bring back Kirk and Daniil, and they bring in like a second level free agent defensive tackle. Certainly could go that way. But also, look who's still on the board. So Braylon Trice from Washington, I think, is going to be a stud. Edgerrin Cooper, in my opinion, is the best off-ball in this class. Troy Franklin is basically like a 6'3" Devontae Smith. Has a vertical element. And Troy Franklin, yes, he doesn't run a full route tree, whatever. But it's sort of like the Jalen Hyatt discussion from last year, from when he came out of Tennessee. But Troy Franklin made Bo Nix. Let's not be weird here. And Tyler Nubin's going to be a stud. I think that he should and could be a first-round pick, but if Harrison retires, that would be an interesting conversation if they want to stick with the 3 safeties, because Tyler Nubin is an absolute dog, man. Speaking of absolute dogs, so John Randall, 6-footers for life, regulators mount up, the pride of Texas A&I Kingsville, Hall of Famer, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame, they spotlighted Johnny Randall. 14 seasons, Randall amassed 137 sacks for the Vikings and Seahawks, but really the Vikings. Randall's in the Gold Jacket spotlight this week. So 14 seasons, 137 career sacks, 1990s All-Decade Team, 7 Pro Bowls, partridge in a pear tree. He's one of the players that really made me fall in love with football. Chris Carter's 1, Randy Moss is 2, John Randall is 3, because all 3 of those guys were right in my wheelhouse when I was growing up. And just seeing John Randall and the face paint and like the great commercial where he's chasing the Brett Favre chicken with catching him, it's great. And just absolute heart and hustle. And it showed, like, John Randall showed you what you want in a player, where John Randall played every single down like it was his last. And I know that's a cliche, but if you go back and watch, 93 was always going a million miles an hour. He was talking so much ish. This is before the internet too, so he would get the other teams the guides or the programs, and he would research his offensive linemen and his quarterbacks, and he would talk so good, specific ish. It's just great. It's just great, man. I love me some Johnny Randall. We gotta get a John Randall jersey, because I used to have one as a kid. So it was the Chris Carter, the John Randall, and the Randy Moss jerseys, which was the iron-on numbers, and you wear them so much. And as a kid, of course, you're just always like getting after and doing active stuff. And gotta give me another one. There you go. But that's it. That's Vikings news dump on this beautiful Wednesday. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol production value.